Are you worried, in a stall state, frozen, and not taking action that would keep your momentum going during this global crisis that we're currently in? Believe me, you are not alone. Of course, it's been the nonstop conversation going on between my clients, my friends, my family over the last few weeks, and it's definitely going to continue. That's why I'm bringing you a long solo cast today on episode number 87 of the Max Potential Habits podcast. Really, I want you to stay buckled in for the entire conversation because it's going to be a very inspiring mindset and habits discussion to help you get back on track if you're feeling stuck in this time of crisis. I'm calling this one Thoughts, Decisions, and Actions in Times of Crisis because it's so much the conversation in all of the circles I'm in right now. And it's a place where a lot of us are getting stuck. So I just wanted to show up today authentically, vulnerably. I'm going to share a whole bunch of raw stories. Before I do my podcast, I usually do a little bit of meditation and I think, okay, what do I need to bring to the table today? And I had a really long work day today and I was sitting on my couch going, am I in the mood to do a podcast? And I said, of course I am. It was really funny. I had a few minutes where I was like, oh, I'm tired. Do I want to do this right now? Because I really like to bring my energy to you and my inspiration. And as I sat there meditating and relaxing, and usually I'll turn to other podcasts and just start kind of listening and getting inspired. And I'm like, okay, yes, I need to talk to my people. So I got up and, I'll make a few pages of notes and then I just go for it. So this is going to be a really raw and vulnerable conversation. I have an outline, but I also just wing it as I go. And that's what's happening today. So real quick, if it's your first time here, I'm Dr. Amanda Barrientez. I'm the founder of NFA Coaching and the host of the Max Potential Habits podcast. This is your place where I'll bring you tips, tools, and inspirational interviews each and every week to help you optimize your habits so you can thrive in your life and business. And really, I have some really cool new stuff going on around the inner boss. So I have new courses coming out, or a new course coming out called the Inner Boss Boot Camp. Be looking for it. It's coming out on April 3rd. And if you email me and say, hey, I want in, it's going to be a 30-day boot camp where you're going to get massive awesomeness in the form of a video every day, a 10-minute video, and a worksheet to help you master your mindset so that you can implement really specific action steps and strategies in your business to 10x your business. And I'm so psyched about this because this is everything I've learned in the last couple of years, going from food stamps to six figures and all of the things I've implemented with my clients to really help them. It's only going to be $497. So it is going to be a powerhouse. It's also going to give you access to free group coaching with me for a month and office hours for asking any questions you want to ask about building a business every week. So huge, huge, huge bonuses. If you're interested in early enrollment, email me and you'll get a 25% discount for early enrollment and by being my loyal listener on the Max Potential Habits podcast. Other announcements, don't forget, if you have already done a review for the podcast, be sure to screenshot it and send it to me at mphraffle@nfacoaching.com so you can be entered into the monthly raffle. And if you haven't left a review yet and you're loving what you're hearing every week on the podcast, please leave one. Super easy. It takes you less than 5 minutes and it really helps me reach more people so that we can build our community and just reach out to more people. So that would be awesome. And of course, I always love to get those screenshotted to stories as well. Helps me help more people and make that impact that I want to make. One of my goals is to reach a minimum of 5 million people through everything I do in NFA coaching. So that really helps me out. So thank you in advance. All right, let's get back to today's show. I want to start with a powerful question. Do you realize that all you have control over is your thoughts, decisions, and actions? And remember, these are habits. My definition of habits is a repeated pattern of thoughts, decisions, and actions that over time become automatic. So what happens with our habits is that we do things repeatedly. We have our thoughts repeatedly, we make decisions repeatedly, and we take actions repeatedly. And over time, those become automatic. Those are our autopilot habits. And if those are setting you up for success, awesome. You're on your way to success. You're on your way to leading a fulfilling life. If your habits aren't aligned for success, then you've actually got to make the conscious effort and have strategy around shifting your habits. I call this strategic habit formation. So everything I bring to you in the work that I do is actionable strategies to help you shift your habits. And I'm really big on mindset, money, and manifestation because those are also habits. Having the information and knowledge that I've developed over the last several years in doing this work and working with people, I see how powerful it is to first align your mindset in a way that's going to set you up for success. If you have a mindset that is victim-minded and keeping you stuck, and in a place where you beat yourself up, you blame other people for your reality, you are afraid and in a panic mode, which right now there's a lot of that going on because we're in a moment of a global pandemic. It's really easy to get your mindset going down the rabbit hole of negativity, to talk to negative people, to listen to people who are complaining, scared, just really stuck in a space of looking at all of the darkness and bad things that are happening. Sure, there are some challenges that are going on, big ones, but there's also a lot of positivity going on, and you've got to be the one who chooses your mind to be focused in a certain direction. And the interesting thing is when we're in panic and crisis mode, our brain actually wants to even go into more black and white thinking, and black and white thinking gets us into survival-based fears, right? So a worry is really just a focus on the future in a direction about, let me reframe that. A worry is a future focused fear, right? So fear and worry are along the same line. It's kind of anxiety, fear, worry have to do with thinking about things in the future that have not yet happened, but that you're hyper focusing on. And by continuously thinking about those fears and worries, you're creating more problems for yourself to overcome, because worry is like praying for problems to come your way. When I always say what you focus on expands. So if you're focusing on worry and fear, you get more worry and fear. You attract people to you who want to talk about worry and fear. You watch the news that's based on worry and fear. You attract drama. I talk about it as attracting a shitstorm to you where it seems to be never ending. And you know when you're around those people, and it might be you, and if it is, listen carefully, because you can step out of that. It used to be me. I used to be always worried, always fearful, and I would attract a lot of drama to me, and I would attract other people's problems to try to help them work through them because it was easier to focus on their worries than my own. And as I started to empower my mind, I realized, I don't need to sit in a place of worry. I don't need to attract a shitstorm to me. Now my life, I'm in charge of my life instead of my life being in charge of me, because my outer world is a reflection of my inner world, and I implement strategies to master my thoughts. So when your brain goes into crisis mode, it starts to focus on the fears, and your inner critic gets really loud. Your inner critic is basically yelling at you saying, be safe, be safe, be safe. Stay in your comfort zone. Don't take any action. Don't make any big decisions. It puts you in a stall state. And we start thinking about, it's like a worry track running over and over in your mind. Will my business fail? What's going to happen at the end of this crisis? How long will this crisis last? What if? We go into this what if worry-based thinking about all of the negative things that can happen during this crisis. And we hyper-focus on that, and then we actually create it in our lives. I know people who are in that space of just worry, and I see them feeling miserable and afraid and stuck. And then, as a mindset coach, I hang with a pretty cool crew of people. And in those circles, they're like, okay, how can we take action? How can we make pivots in our business? How can we commune with other awesome people? How can we create win-win relationships? How can we shift our events online? So people who are in a power position and have powerful mindsets are pivoting in ways that they can keep moving forward instead of getting really, really stuck in the fear and the worry. So what if you were to master your thoughts instead of letting them master you? If you were to realize that you're one thought away from your dreams, you really are, even in a time of crisis, because everything happens for a reason. And in this time of crisis, it's giving you an opportunity to slow down, jump off the treadmill, and reflect and refocus and rebirth yourself in a new way, as I talked about in a previous podcast. So what if you thought, I'm one thought away from building a business I want to build. I'm one thought away from creating a 6-figure income. I'm one thought away from having the relationship I dream of. I'm one thought away from being vibrantly healthy and feeling alive. I'm one thought away from abundance and wealth. When you really sit with those questions and you realize, wow, I really am one thought away, because your beliefs are a collection of thoughts that you keep having. So if you keep having them in a negative way, that's what you're going to keep recreating. That's going to become your autopilot system. Instead, strategically start asking yourself those powerful questions. Okay, if I'm one thought away from building my business, what's the thought I need to shift to build my business more powerfully? If I'm really scared right now about getting sick, what's the one thought I need to shift into? Like, okay, how can I build my immunity instead of, oh my God, I'm so afraid to touch anything and I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get sick. What if you shifted that to, okay, how can I build my immunity? How can I use this time to sleep more, meditate more, exercise, relax, and do some self-care practices, and so that you can be on the healthy edge of this. And what if you do get sick? How can you allow yourself to recognize that everything happens for a reason, and that we're stepping into this time that's unknown all together collectively? And how can you empower your thoughts no matter what situation you're in right now? And that's really the way of a master. It's hard to do. Most people, some people might be mad at me for saying that. You might be like, oh, I've got sick people and I'm terrified. But here's the truth. You have no control over the outcome other than your thoughts, your decisions, and actions. That's all you have control of. So even if you're sick, even if you're around people that are sick, and even if you're scared about your future financially, how are you going to empower your thoughts to shift in a new direction? So your action step in the area of thoughts is to get conscious. Okay, so the only way that we can really shift our reality is to start to get conscious of the thoughts that are running our life. So ask yourself, what thoughts will I consciously choose to have today? I want you to reframe your limiting beliefs into empowering thoughts by writing them down and reading them over and over and over until they become your new automatic thoughts. So you write down your limiting beliefs, you reframe them, and then read your reframes. Use them as mantras to realign your thinking in a new direction, and read those again and again until they become your autopilot thoughts. Okay. Now let's turn to decisions. I love the word decision because it comes from the Latin root meaning to cut off. When we decide, we are making a powerful statement to ourselves, to others, to the universe, that we've cut off other options and we're moving in a very clear direction. In reality, this is the most masterful mindset thing you can do, because your beliefs and your thoughts are a collection, your repeated thoughts turn into your beliefs, and your beliefs are really, the way that they show up in a concrete way is in your decisions. So if we want to become really powerful people, we must become conscious of our decisions. Well, first our thoughts, like I said in the last step, but also what are the decisions we're making give us some insight. And a lack of decision gives us insight too to what our beliefs are, because if we say we want to build a powerful business, but we don't take action on it, that means you've decided not to take action. That shows me and yourself that your beliefs are not aligned. You want one thing, you're not taking action and deciding to move in that direction. It means somewhere in you there's a fear, there's a doubt, there's something blocking you from taking action and deciding to take action. So, if you think about making a decision, you're cutting off all other possibilities. Now they're inaccessible, and you've removed them from the equation, which creates less self-doubt. Have you ever noticed that when you make a really powerful decision and you just know, I'm doing this hell or high water? Well, let's say something more empowering. I'm doing this absolutely because I'm committed and it's going to flow to me easily. Love it. I always, it's funny, those autopilot kind of statements that we make when you really think about them. You're like, I don't really want to attract hell or high water to me. I'd rather just go, hey, I'm going to decide that it's going to flow to me easily. So yes, flow to you easily. You've eliminated self-doubt. So when you make those decisions, you aren't doubtful, and any obstacle that comes your way, you see as an opportunity, and you don't see it as something that's going to impede you from getting there permanently. You go, okay, how can I pivot in this moment? How can I find a new way? How can I take a different path? Who can I access as a resource to help me get there? When you've really decided something, it happens because mountains will move for you to make it happen, because you're so clear that that's where you want to go. So the interesting thing right now is that during this chaotic time, you're not in control of the reality that's going on. If you don't want to stay home, but it's mandated that you do, you're not in control of that, right? But you can decide what to do with the time while you're at home in quarantine, right? It's being, practicing social distancing. You can decide what you want to do with that time. And I really want you to question and ask yourself, what if I decided to surrender? This is a big one. Surrender is hard for people, because especially type A powerhouse entrepreneurs, we often want to make things happen when we want them to happen, how we want them to happen. And what I'm really discovering lately, as I do a lot of manifestation studies, I realize that the art of surrender is one of the hardest things for people, and it's one of the most powerful, because you end up attracting things your way that flow more easily than trying to force them. And that's when your real power shows up. And this has been hard for me. It's that question of, what would it feel like to have faith in this moment? How would you feel? How would it feel if you let go and let God, universe, higher power, whatever name you want to name it, be in the driver's seat for now? And this is hard for me to say to you. At the beginning when I said I was going to give a vulnerable share, I was like, ooh, this is interesting. I don't talk about God on this podcast or even in my life much until recently. And what happened for me was that in, July, I went to, you all know that I follow DeMartini, and he's one of my main mentors, and I have certifications from him. And I decided to go to a 10-day workshop that he runs called Barrientez. It's 10 days in a hotel room, 15 hours a day, learning about cosmology, metaphysics, quantum physics, astronomy, astrology, all of the ologies mixed together to understand really the vastness of the universe. And it was mind-blowing. It's not very many people that would subject themselves to 15 hours a day in a hotel conference room reading. We read about 1,500 pages of text in 10 days and, just went deep. And it was really, really, really powerful. And while I was there, I had a moment where I had this epiphany. I was sitting in my seat listening, and we were watching some videos about religion. And I, for those of you who have been following me, you know that I grew up as a fundamentalist Christian, which was a very black and white way of thinking about religion. It was like, hell, I grew up believing that I was going to burn in hell for all of eternity for not going to the church, just this really small denomination. And thinking everyone else was going to burn in hell for all of eternity if they ever did anything wrong. And this, was a lot of black and white thinking that got me really scared. And so in my adult life, I really rejected religiosity. I rejected God, and I let go of my spirituality in big ways. And it was really sad, but I never really acknowledged the loss. I kind of just thought of it as like, good for me. It's empowering to let go of that, because I don't want to think that way anymore. And I was sitting in this workshop, and we were watching, and in DeMartini method, I'm a facilitator in DeMartini method, and it helps you expand your thinking and see all sides. And so I was sitting there going, wow, I had a really strong response to this video. And I was like, wow, I have a big charge there. I really need to look at that. And I had this revelation in the moment. I started crying in my seat and started journaling. And I started crying and realized, oh, wow, I completely abandoned my spirituality. And there were lots of parts of it that I really, really, really loved. And in that moment, out of nowhere, this voice said to me in my mind, it was just in my mind, it just said, be still and know that all is God. There is nothing to be afraid of ever. And I just was like crying. And it was a wild moment for me where I thought it was actually a church song when I was growing up. It was "Be Still and Know That All Is God." It was actually "Be Still and Know That I Am God" was the song, but in my head it said "Be still and know that all is God." And so in this new formulation, I started, I think of God now as the grand organized design of the universe. I can't get into the, kind of patriarchal, like God's a man with a beard and all those things, because that is what I grew up with that really didn't work for me. So I think of God now as the grand organized design. I think of universal intelligence. I think of, divine intelligence guiding us. I think of the matrix of love. I think of quantum physics and light and those types of things. And so I don't need to go any deeper there other than it caused me to surrender. And it caused me to know that I really got it in that moment, that there's nothing to be afraid of ever, because it's all perfect as it is. And, be still and know that all is grand organized design. What an incredible mantra to live by. And I really got to start to surrender in that moment. And since that time, I've had such huge shifts in my life, like huge, huge, huge. Not all of them easy. Surrendering doesn't always mean like, oh, everything's going to flow to you beautifully. Sometimes surrendering means that you're on your track that you want to be on, that you say you want to be on, and things completely shift and change. Like a lot of you know that I had a breakup. So after this workshop, I found out my partner was having an affair, and I was like, holy moly. And in the moment when I found out, in the next few days, I really had to question, like, okay, if I just let go and decide that everything's perfect as it is, what does that really mean? And it was hard and it was beautiful. And I think it's such a powerful way to live, especially in this moment. So what if right now, as your action step in this deciding to surrender, you could start to meditate? If you're not religious, if you don't believe in the grand organized design, awesome. Just meditate and connect and surrender to a higher, to a universal design, knowing that everything is perfect as is. So for the action step, meditate, pray, journal, cry, do what you need to do to allow yourself to surrender to what is in this moment, in this crisis, in the fear and doubt that you have. Surrender and ask yourself, how can I fully allow myself to know that there is nothing to be afraid of ever? Because all is God, grand organized design. Or you could say, if that doesn't align with your belief system, you could say, how can I fully allow myself to know there is nothing to be afraid of ever, because all is perfect as it is? I mean, it's a really powerful place to sit in the middle of crisis. So try it out and let me know how it goes. I would love to know. It's a pretty vulnerable share for me, because my spiritual history is complex and deeply rooted, and yeah, it's been a big one that I'm so grateful to be where I am now in reconnecting with my spirituality. Okay. So now let's talk about actions. When you're in a fear-based state, it's often that you get into a stall state. And what happens in this stall state is that there's no clarity of action. So what happens is you get scared, you get uncertain, you start doubting, you get stuck. So because remember, we talked about how being decisive makes you have certainty. So when you're in fear, it makes you indecisive and it makes you have a lack of certainty. When you're scared, especially in a panic moment, I've heard a lot of people talking about freezing, like they feel like they're stuck in this stall state where they don't know what action to take. And I keep hearing this over and over. I don't know if you're feeling that way. If you are, DM me, let's talk about it. It's totally common to happen in these panic moments, in these crisis moments. And remember that you actually have control of it. You have control of your thoughts, decisions, and actions. So you can actually go, okay, I notice that I'm afraid. I notice that I'm wanting to not take action. And it's okay if you need a couple of down days to recalibrate in this time. I know there's a lot of transition, especially let's say you were someone who worked from your office and now they're like, you got to work from home. And now, on top of it, your kids are home. And on top of that, you're building a business. That's a lot of stuff going on. I get it. So there is time to recalibrate. Take the time to recalibrate and get some new rhythms in place, but don't let yourself get stuck too long in a stall state where you just go, in a month from now, I'll get back into action. That's a month of your life. That's a month of potential impact. That's a month of income. That's a month of helping other people. That's a month of you potentially feeling like shit because you're not taking action in a direction of your dreams, or because you're sitting in fear. And if you're in a fear-based stall state, it's your mind keeping you stuck in the negativity and the worry. Okay, so you want to take courageous action. Decide, commit, take action. I say this time and time again, decide, commit, take action. So you decide to move forward, and that where you are now doesn't have to be where you're staying forever or where you're going in the future. So in this very moment, right now, listening to this podcast is a fresh start. Right now. Right? You can choose right now to be the master of your destiny and not the victim of your history. No matter what came before today, you can choose to do it differently this very moment and from this moment forward. That is your choice. When I started my whole adventure into coaching, it happened from a day where I was laying on the ground crying, realizing, oh my God, I don't know where I'm going to live. I was afraid I was going to be homeless. My ex-husband didn't want to talk to me anymore. My current partner had just moved out, so my relationship life was a mess, and I didn't know how I was going to pay to feed my kids, so food stamps, right? I was freaked out, and in that moment, I was like, okay, clearly I've got some issues, and I'm the center of my universe. I need to change. And I just was like, it was such a clear reality to me. It was like, okay, no one else is going to change this for me. And the common denominator in these situations is me. And since then, I've repaired my relationship with my ex-husband. We are best friends. We have holidays and dinners together, and we hang out all the time with our kids. It's awesome. I'm friends with my ex-partner who even had an affair in the last year. We're friends. And that's a long story of us growing apart and different things happening. And, it's just relationships. That's a whole nother podcast, not even an episode. That's a whole nother podcast. I love it. I've learned so much about relationships and come so far. And it's through this mindset piece, right? And so in it, I decided, and I took action. I committed and I took action. That also helped me go from food stamps to building a 6-figure business. And you all know that one of my goals is to go to $1 million a year business. I'm not freaked out about how fast that happens because I know my success is inevitable. I'm taking daily actions to get there. I have it in my mind that I'd like to have it happen in the first 3 years of my business, but I'm also not attached to that, because what if something way better is going to happen faster? Or what if it takes me a little longer than that? I'm not going to beat myself up because I'm every day showing up, playing the game, helping people, doing what I love, and I know 100% that my success is inevitable. And so I just keep trusting and I keep taking action, and that's what I want you to do right now. Don't get stuck in that stall state. Decide and take action. This moment in our history is a pattern interrupt, hugely. Pattern interrupts are awesome because they help us create new habits, right? So use this time to your benefit. When we get into the everyday mundane or the everyday routine actions, those things become autopilot. So if you're not liking everything in your life right now, use this pattern interrupt as a time to start out fresh. So for this action step, for this action step, because we're talking about actions now, and the action step I want you to take is to write down 10 ways to take action in this time to build future momentum in your business. Okay, or it could be future momentum in any direction you want to go. Let's say that during this pattern interrupt, now that you don't have a commute to work, you have 2 extra hours a day. In those 2 extra hours, you could spend half an hour meditating, half an hour exercising, half an hour journaling, and half an hour planning for something new. How would that change your life if you did that for the next 4 weeks? I mean, powerful shifts. So use the time wisely. I've got some ideas for you. You could spend the extra time reflecting and brainstorming. Review what's working in your business and what's not. Review what's working in your relationship and what's not. Review what's working in your financial life and what's not. Think about pivots for your business and start doing some research. That's a small action that you can take in a new direction. Let's say you've been wanting to write a book for years, but you never seem to get started. Sit down and write the first damn paragraph. That's an action that you can take in this moment of pause. That is something that can empower your business in the future. You could take this time to make new connections. This is something I've really been doing on LinkedIn. I've been reaching out to a whole bunch of people and just going, hey, let me know if you want to get on a Zoom and create some win-wins together. I had 20 conversations with new people in the last 10 days. I think it's the last 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. I've had 20 conversations. I've created all kinds of cool stuff. I've met new people. I've created some joint ventures. I've met new people to bring onto the podcast. I mean, on and on and on. And I did that out of thin air. And just went, oh, what can I do with this time? How can I create some win-wins? How can I help more people? How can I expand my business? How can I help other people expand their business? So are you being helpful or are you being fearful? Fearfulness and holding yourself back and limiting your potential is actually really narcissistic. In this moment, if you're hyper-focusing on your doubts and fears, you're being narcissistic. And I think it's so funny when people talk about narcissists in this really negative way and they are forgetting to look at themselves and go, oh, well, if you're sitting there beating yourself up with your inner critic, always doubting yourself and taking up a whole bunch of space, not showing up authentically, that's narcissistic. So how can you in this moment, instead of worrying about yourself, start serving, start giving, start being grateful for what you have? Other actions, clean out your desk. Cleaning out your space and purging is really powerful for shifting energy. Read a personal growth and development book. And here's a shameless plug. Sign up for my Inner Boss Bootcamp. It's going to be a 30-day course. You're going to get a 10-minute video every day and a worksheet. And then there's going to be a group that you can get on for group coaching. And there's going to be weekly office hours where you can ask me anything you want about business building and or life. And if you want to be enrolled in that course, Inner Boss Bootcamp, it's being released on April 3rd. And if you are, because you're my loyal listener, I will give you a 25% discount. It's only $497. And this course will absolutely change your life. It's all the tricks and tips I've learned in mindset world and manifestation and money to help business builders get out of their way, stop their fear, stop their doubt, and move in a new direction powerfully by changing their brain to 10x their business. Super, super, super powerful course. It's probably one of the most exciting things I think I've ever released. Okay, wrapping up. First, if you've gotten something out of this, I would really, really, really love to hear from you. It keeps me inspired knowing that I'm reaching you, impacting you, making a difference in your life. So take a screenshot of the podcast, blast it out to social media, share it with people, help me expand, and or even just email me and say, hey, Amanda, I loved this about the podcast episode. My email is dramanda@nfacoaching.com. I love hearing from you. And don't forget to enter into the raffle with your review on iTunes. And wrapping up, summary recap. Remember to ask yourself, or remember to remind yourself, that's a funny thing to say, remind yourself, all you have control over is your thoughts, decisions, and actions. So number 1, examine your thoughts and spend time reframing from limiting to empowered beliefs. Number 2, decide to surrender to what is, let go of your fear, and step into faith and flow. And number 3, take action in an inspired direction every single day. Live your life fully, people. I mean, we get this one life, make it matter. Yes, I'm so grateful for you being here. You're awesome. Rock it out. Reach out to me if you're struggling. I want to hear from you. And that's all I've got for you today. I hope you have a max potential week where you thrive and feel alive. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Max Potential Habits podcast. If you're liking what you've heard, it would be so incredibly awesome if you would subscribe to the channel and leave a 5-star rating and a written review. This helps me help more people while we grow our NFA community so we can rock it out together. For Max Potential Habits resources, go to nfacoaching.com where you can access all of my resources. There's free ebooks, PDF checklists, a journal template, a business mindset meditation kit, and so much more. Plus, links to NFA coaching on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And if you're super serious about up-leveling, there's also a link to schedule a free consult to work with me in group or one-on-one coaching. Until next time, I hope you have a Max Potential Habits Day where you get inspired to do whatever it takes to transform into the most empowered version of yourself so you can lead a rich, thriving, kick-ass life and business.